no one can take that away from me. I'm a Ladies European Tour winner, and not many people can say they've won on tour at the highest level. So.
Amy Boulden, professional golfer with 1 Ladies European Tour win, and the highest was ranked 101 in the world.
I think over the last probably 2-3 years, I was then starting to mentally really struggle on the golf course. My friends were all like hanging out after school. I was wanting to go to the golf club. I'm trying to think what my first ever handicap was. I think it was 28, which obviously I was young as well. I was probably like 9 years old.
I'm figuring out at what age you would beat me, and you're not far away from beating me at age 9. You are a machine. I've seen on your Instagram you're throwing things above your head with one hand that I probably couldn't deadlift.
What people don't realise is golf's a really expensive sport, and for me personally, if I didn't have the sponsors I've had over the last 11 years, I wouldn't have been able to fund that myself. Because everyone's like, well, were you nervous? And I was like, I'm not nervous, it's more like an anxiety feeling, like it's different. It was like I felt sick.
You started from like, I don't know if I'm even going to make it, I guess, to winning Rookie of the Year and getting top 10s in all those tournaments, second in one of them.
I remember I played with Lexi Thompson on that Saturday, and I had the round of the day in the worst weather. And I look back and I think, God, that was like, I shot the best score of the day out of the best players in the world.
Yeah.
Like, it's quite a cool achievement.
Yeah.
But I actually like haven't really spoken about like the whole career in one conversation, and you think, oh my God, there were so many highs, but also like so many lows.
Welcome to the show where we talk to successful people about the bits you don't see. Today we're talking to Amy Boulden, who's a professional golfer with 1 Ladies European Tour win, and the highest was ranked 101 in the world, is that right?
That's right.
So yeah, thank you very much for coming along, Amy. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you for having me.
Thanks. So yeah, talk me through what you do, what your career's been about. Who are you, what do you do?
Okay, so I am from North Wales, so recently moved to Dubai. Which has been a nice change. But yeah, so I've been a professional golfer on the Ladies European Tour for the last 11 years. Recently retired, which we'll get into.
Yeah.
But yes, got into it really young. Turned pro, I think, when I was 19.
Yeah.
And then played on the Ladies European Tour for the last 11 years. So it's been a fun career and exciting one. But yeah, kind of like onto different things now.
Nice. Yeah, we'll definitely get onto the retirement and onto the new things and stuff like that. Talk us through in a bit more depth, like, where'd you start? You've got Wikipedia, which really helped me. I've got some great bullet points. But yeah, talk us through kind of in a bit more detail what's happened.
Yeah, so as I was growing up, I started playing when I was 6 years old. Came from a proper golfing family. My dad was the head club pro at my golf club. I had 2 older sisters that both played. So yeah, when I was younger, I kind of just wanted to follow my sisters around and do what they did. So I think that was why I probably started so young, because 6 is quite young. And then realised I was all right at it, and got noticed by like the Welsh national squad. So got into that squad quite young, and then from there I was lucky enough to get like decent coaching, like international coaching, and basically started travelling quite young with the Welsh team, then got in the Great Britain and Ireland team, and it kind of just went from there. I think when I was young, I didn't really realise that this was going to be what I was going to do. Yeah. But it kind of just, I got given so many good opportunities being involved in kind of the international squads.
Yeah. So I've seen that you were in the Ryder Cup, Junior Ryder Cup. You were in, I mean, a whole list of them. What was all the things you were in? Yeah,
so team-wise, and because that's the thing with amateur golf, you play in a lot of team competitions. Like the amateur game, there's a lot of like, obviously I was involved in the Welsh squad growing up. Then I got noticed by the Great Britain Island squad, and that's when I got picked for like different things like the Curtis Cup, which is Great Britain Island against America. I got in the Junior Ryder Cup, which is Europe against America. And that one was quite interesting because it was a mixture of girls and boys, 6 girls, 6 boys in a team. Yeah. I got in the Junior Solheim Cup, which was 12 girls from Europe against 12 girls from America. So they were all different competitions that getting into as a 15, 16-year-old was really cool, actually. Yeah. It really made me realise, actually, I kind of want to do this as a career.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's like the pinnacle of golf when you're older, right? When you go to the Ryder Cup, President's Cup, stuff like that. So I take it not many people end up on these things. Like, of the people that are on the pro tours now, presumably not many of them actually got to that level at that age.
Yeah, definitely. And I think some of these events are like every 2 years as well. Yeah. So you've obviously got that window of when you're like, between the ages of probably 14 and 18 to get into them squads before you turn pro. They're all under 18 tournaments as well. So yeah, it's quite interesting as well. When I then turned pro and went on tour, you kind of, these are the girls and guys that you've spent so much time with as an amateur. You then progress onto the tour. I mean, some people don't, but as you progress onto the tour, it's quite nice that you've got that familiarity of people that you've spent a lot of time with as an amateur. You've competed against them for a long time.
Yeah. And how many of them do you think make it? Like, of kind of people at that level, how many go on to make it pro?
That's an interesting question, because obviously I think Curtis Cup, which is Great Britain, and Ireland against America. I think my Curtis Cup team, pretty much most of us turned pro.
Yeah.
I mean, I was in with the likes of like Georgia Hall, Charlie Hull. So there was like, you know, the Maguire twins. There was a lot of good girls in my team at that time. So they've all gone on to do great things. Yeah. And then, yeah, I think Junior Ryder Cup, maybe not as many that have turned pro. We were a little bit younger in that team, but pretty much most girls or guys, turn pro after getting into them teams, because when you think about it, it's the elite players in Great Britain or Europe.
Yeah. And at what point did you realise, like, I'm good at this?
I think probably, I mean, I felt like I was always obviously a good golfer. I was, you know, winning a lot of events I would enter. I think when I was in school, my sisters went to a private school where they, you know, finished school. I remember at like 6 p.m. They had to go to school on a Saturday morning. When I was going into high school, my dad gave me the option of like, do you want to go to the same school as your sisters, or do you want to go to a different school? And I was like, well, I want to go to a public school. I want to go to one where I can finish at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and then go and play golf after it. Yeah. And I think that definitely helped shape like me wanting to take it a bit more seriously. But also I think when I was growing up and in school and stuff, like my friends were all like hanging out after school. I was wanting to go to the golf club. So I knew that my interests were very much in golf, not in other things. And that's when I thought, do you know what, this is something I kind of want to take a little bit more seriously.
Yeah. It takes a lot to get that good that young. Like, how much golfing were you doing to get to that level?
It's hard to remember, to be honest, but I think it's probably hard to remember because I was enjoying it as well. It wasn't like it was a chore to go and practice. Yeah, for sure. I think it really helped that my dad was the pro at my golf club. So I remember I just like on the weekends, I would love just sitting in the shop, like talking to the members and things like that. And then I'd go out and do a bit of putting and, you know, play with the members. So it wasn't really a chore to me. I remember when I was getting a little bit older and my dad started getting maybe a little bit harder on me, because obviously he was a golf pro, so he knew what it took to kind of make it. And I remember in the winter I used to I am a warm weather golfer. I like to be in the sun.
Me too.
And I remember my dad like dropping me off at the chipping area. I must have been like 14, and it was like middle of winter. It started hailstone. It was freezing, and he was like, you know, you need to go and practice your chipping and your pitching today. I was thinking, oh my god! And I remember like just stood there being freezing, like hoping the time would pass by. But I'm kind of glad he did that, because obviously it did toughen me up a little bit. But also I was like, do you know what, if I want to make it, you kind of have to make them sacrifices. Yeah,
it's different if you're just doing it for fun, but when you're getting to that top level, you need to be doing it at all the kind of bad times. We said on the way up, I've kind of recently taken up golf, and it's since I've moved here. Like, I could not imagine playing golf at home. Even like the courses and the clubs and everything's just so much nicer here. Obviously the weather, but everything about it just seems a lot nicer.
Yeah, I've definitely been spoiled, especially like when you turn pro, you follow the sun around. Like as an amateur, you play all year round, and you know it doesn't matter if it's chucking it down with rain, snowing, like you're going out there and playing. Whereas the professional game, you know, you go to all these nice sunny places. You know, I'm like was playing in Scotland most of my amateur career because that's where all the best golf courses were.
Yeah.
So it definitely toughened me up. And I remember when I first turned pro, I used to love like the British Open and like them kind of events that were really difficult because of the weather.
Yeah.
Because I just
You're
remember
used
like
to it.
Yeah, and I grew up on, you know, the west coast of North Wales, so I was like, I'm used to playing at like links golf courses that are really windy and cold.
Yeah. And so you're saying you follow the sun. How does that work? Like how does the season go?
Yeah, so the Ladies European Tour, like you play pretty much like all year round. There's a little bit of an off season, but not that long. Like they start in February in like Saudi, Morocco, so it's sunny places in February, that time of year. You go on to like South Africa, Australia, so you kind of go the far side of the world first, and then you come back in the summer to Europe, the UK, and then towards the back end of this season, you know, you're back in Saudi, Dubai, places like that. So kind of the months we play in is always in the nicest weather.
So I was going to ask this later, but I think this is a perfect transition to a question that I've got of the travel. Like, what is that like, traveling about like that? People at home probably think, oh, it's amazing, you get to go to all these lovely places. Is it actually like that?
I mean, it's difficult. Like, I know have been so lucky to have a job that I've got to travel, and I wouldn't have changed it for the world because I've got to see so many amazing places, doing a job that I love. Like, I've not been working a 9 to 5. I know I'm very lucky to have been able to do that. But there's also things that you definitely miss out on being a professional, like, athlete in general, away from family a lot. Like, I've got nieces and nephews, so I kind of missed watching them grow up a little bit. You're always away on birthdays, celebrations. Like, your friends kind of stop inviting you that you kind of grown up with in school because they're like, well, she's obviously going to be away, because you always were. So that's been difficult, like just missing out on things. And then the travel side of things, like, yeah, it's, you're always time difference. And, if I've got a tournament, let's say in Australia, and it's one of my favourite places to go to, but how much do you actually see of it? I literally live in a hotel and at a golf course for the whole week. Like, it's very unusual that we get time off to go and see anything. Like, sometimes if we've got a week off afterwards, like no tournament, we'll maybe try and stay an extra couple of days, but to be honest, very rarely, because normally you've got to, pack up and get to the next event. So we can be in all these lovely places and not really see anything except the hotel and the golf course, which is also lovely, but
kind of defeats the purpose of it from like going to a nice place perspective.
Exactly, we could be anywhere in the world. We're just seeing another hotel and another golf course, and the hardest part is living out of a suitcase. Like, honestly, it is just a lot. And
you're going literally week playing, aren't you? So what's like a kind of standard week like?
Like a standard tournament week, or
well, are you playing in tournaments every week?
So it depends. So like sometimes, like height of summer, like we go from tournament to tournament. But a week off, I would have like always 1 day off, 2 days off to rest after the travel, and then you're straight back into kind of practicing and preparing for the next week because if you're playing well, you kind of need to keep practicing to keep yourself sharp. If you're not, you're then like working hard with your coach trying to fix whatever's going on. And
a tournament will finish on a Sunday, and then you're starting again the following Thursday. You've got the travel in between. You've got the practice of the new course in between and all that sort of stuff. Like, there can't be much time to do anything else.
I think like a usual tournament week, like I would arrive probably a Monday evening. Then you have like your practice day Tuesday. It's usually a pro-am on a Wednesday. And so you're not even really getting the chance to practice on a Wednesday. Exactly, yeah. You play pro-am on the Wednesday, and also a pro-am day is like you've got to be engaging with the amateurs that are putting money into the events for us. So there also can be quite like tiring days, just kind of socially. And then Thursday the tournament starts. So it's literally like once you get to a tournament, the weeks go pretty fast because you're so busy. Yeah, you don't have a chance to breathe. Yeah, I know from travelling around way less than that. I go back home, obviously I live in Dubai. I'll go back home, my investors in Cornwall, my main projects in Birmingham, and then most of my companies are in Edinburgh. So I can travel around about maybe 1 week here, 1 week there, 1 week there. And I lose my mind in like 4 weeks, 5 weeks. So like I can't imagine what it would be like for a whole year. Yeah, and also like we do in the off season as well. So like we don't normally play end of November, December, January is normally the off season. And at them times a year, you're trying to get away from, I was living in North Wales, so you're then wanting to fly out to either Spain or Dubai and, have winter training where you can be practicing every day in nice weather, because there's skills that are out in, the US that are constantly playing in nice weather. They've kind of got a little bit of an advantage. So you kind of need to get away from, if you're living in, Wales or Scotland, to get away from the bad weather and keep sharp and bring your coach out for training weeks and things like that. And what people don't realise is golf's a really expensive sport. That was going to be my next question. Like, who pays for all this stuff? Yeah, it's expensive, especially the women's game. Obviously, like, I know there's been so much in the media over the last couple of years with like the new tour, Live Golf and things like that. And you watch the PGA Tour and you can see they're playing for millions of pounds. And that is just not quite accurate of what the women play with. And like, we are very lucky that we do still get to play for a lot of money, but there's a big difference between the LPGA Tour, the Ladies European Tour, and even like the feeder tours below that, because there's them feeder tours that people have 2 jobs. Like people are, working at home and then, taking a week off to then go and play in a tournament, because, their dream is to play on the tour. But yeah, week to week, we rely heavily on sponsorship in the women's game. And for me personally, if I didn't have the sponsors I've had over the last 11 years, I wouldn't have been able to fund that myself, because even the amount of money you earn in prize money wouldn't have covered me to kind of play for the rest of the year. I mean, obviously the best of the best, you're earning a lot of money, and when you're playing well, it's so easy because the sponsors are coming in, everything's going well for you. Whereas if you're on that borderline of struggling, but you've got a lot of potential, to try and then get a sponsor to sponsor you when you're struggling, that's also very difficult. So I was really lucky. I had a lot of my sponsors had supported me the whole way through my career, which, I think sometimes it can be more of a personal relationship of them investing in you as a person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do the maths, right, on anything that I walk into. It's just my mind. If I sit in a restaurant, I go, oh, there's that many people here, they're making that much money, oh, this place is doing great. I do the maths on something like golf, and I think there must only be such a small percentage of people that can actually pay their way with what they're earning in prize money. Because, the top person gets £1 million or whatever, but even second, half of that, and then third, and then by the time you're in 10th, like, you can't even pay for your flight to the next place.
Yeah, and especially, like, the tour's very top-heavy as well. So if you finish in the top 10, you're in a decent amount. After that, it's obviously then, gets lower and lower as you finish down the leaderboard. But let's say there's 120 girls in a field, 60 make the cut, which means, you play Thursday, Friday, it's a 4-round tournament. You play Thursday, Friday, there's a cut to top 60. So from 61st to 120, them girls, make no money. And it's actually cost them probably £3,000 to get there, because they've had to pay for their travel, they have to pay for their caddy, like all their expenses during the week. We have an entry fee that we have to pay to even just play in the tournament.
Oh, wow.
So there's just a lot of things that I think people sometimes don't realise. But saying that, you win a tournament and there you go, like you've done them for the next few weeks, you can then relax and play well. But I think a lot of that is, the pressures of playing professional golf. That's what you kind of got yourself into, and that's what, you thrive on.
Yeah. Right, talking about pressure, that's a good transition back to a bit younger. Did you feel the pressure when you were like 15, 16, 17 coming up?
Not as much as I did when I turned pro. I remember, like, I absolutely loved playing as an amateur. And I don't know what the difference was turning pro. Like, I still love playing as a pro, but I think everything just changed. It's like we've spoken about of, you're getting older and you've then thinking about making money and things like that where it's not in your head when you're an amateur of like, I need to earn X amount in this week. As an amateur, I was just, really enjoying playing, trying to see. I remember, like, when I was trying to get my handicap down to a certain number, like, that was really exciting. Like, I wanted to play every day to try and get my handicap down. So I think it's just a different mindset from amateur to professional golf, for sure.
Talk to me about your handicap. I know my handicap. What's yours gone on over the years?
So obviously when you turn pro, your handicap automatically just goes to 0 because everyone's playing off of scratch. But I'm trying to think what my first ever handicap was. I think it was 28, which obviously I was young as well. I was probably like 9 years old, which is quite low for for a young girl. Yeah. Normally your first handicap's like 36.
I'm figuring out at what age you would beat me, and you're not far away from beating me at age 9.
And I remember my handicap like just coming down like so quickly. But that was one of the events that I used to play in when I was first, because everyone says like, how did you learn to love the game at such a young age? And I remember there was a tournament called the Wee Wonders, and it was a tournament where each player had like a little flag, and you had 36 shots, and wherever your 36th shot finished, you put a flag in the ground, and it was the person that could get the furthest way around the course. So obviously, I mean, I'm young, I'm like 7 years old, and I always get to like the third hole. Like it was just one of them events, but I remember it being a really nice like way to get involved in golf. It wasn't like, I don't know, loads of pressure of trying to, not shoot a really high number or anything like that. It was more like who could get their flag the furthest away around the course. So I remember that was just like a really fond memory of like growing up of that competition.
Yeah, that sounds really fun. I've never heard of that game.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if it's still actually, because I have a lot of people message me, like parents saying, how do we get, our children to golf? And that was what made me like at first really love it was them going to that tournament, because I used to go, I remember, like every year to it, obviously before I was like got a handicap and things like that. So I'm trying to think if that tournament's still going. It definitely was a few years ago, but if it is, like, I would definitely encourage. And I think that's something I would say is, if you do have any kids and you want them to get into golf, is just like, I think entering them in competitions at a early age, I think is a good thing.
And ones that are fun as well, because you were like talking about that is so long ago, and that's when your fondest memories.
Yeah, exactly. And I think like you're worried about too much pressure being on them, but really, like, that's where I've met all of my friends for life. Like, is something that we've all got in common, is, you know, something that we all love.
Yeah.
And I think golf as a game anyway teaches you so many great things in life.
Yeah, 100%. I think that when I'm stressed, when I have a bad week at work, right, I'm like, I'll go and play golf. That'll make me happy. And after about my first tee shot, I'm like, okay, no, I'm not happy anymore.
I saw something on Instagram the other day that said, like, it was a post. I don't know if it was like Golf Digest, and it was like, golf reduces stress, golf reduces anxiety, golf reduces whatever. And I read them all and I was like, that's a lie.
Yeah.
Like, golf definitely makes me more stressed now. But I mean, we all come back because we love it, don't we? Like, it's one of them games where you never quite conquer it. It's like one day so different to the next.
And see, for me, right, if I have one good shot in the day, it could trump the whole rest of the day. I'm obviously not at the level where it's pro, and that would not be the case. But yeah, I remember that one shot over the other 100 bad ones for the day.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, turning pro, what's that like?
So the process of turning pro, because everyone always asks me this, of like, how do you actually turn professional? What you do is, especially to play on the tour, is you need to go to something called tour school. And for the ladies tour, it's always at the end of the year, so in like December time. And basically, when I turned pro, when I was like, I think I was about 19, and I just felt like I'd done everything I wanted to do in the amateur game. Because I think, you know, how do you know when you're ready to turn pro? I'd kind of won everything that I felt like I wanted to win, and I was ready for that next step. So I entered tour school, and basically it's like 6 rounds of golf in a row. It's a long week. There's a cut, I think, after like 4 rounds, then another after 5, and then you play the last round. And I think it's top 20 get their full playing rights for the season. So if you finish outside of that, you basically can then go and play on like a feeder tour, which in the ladies' game is called the LET Access Series, which have a decent schedule, but obviously you play for a lot less money. And then, yeah, luckily I actually finished just outside the top 20 in my first year. And I was
you'd have been young then, right?
I was 19, and I remember I got an invite. I was getting coached by Robert Rock at the time, who plays on the men's tour, and he managed to get me an invite into Morocco, I think it was, and I didn't play very well. But I remember it just being like, oh my God, this is so cool. Like, I think like Laura Davis was playing, and I was like a massive fan as a kid. And I was like, oh, this is just really exciting. So I knew that was what I wanted to go, and like, you know, I need to make sure I get on the tour. And then I played in an access event and finished second. And I was like, oh, right, okay, I'm kind of good. Because I think sometimes you don't realise if you're good enough to actually play on the tour. So I was like, oh, that gave me a bit of confidence. And then I entered US Open qualifying to try and qualify for the major, and I qualified.
And this is all in this first year?
This is in this first year. So I didn't have my full card at this point.
But you're on a major?
So I then went to the US Open. I mean, I didn't play well, but it was just like the experience of playing in a major championship was so cool. And then after I got back from there, I think it just gave me a load of confidence. And I ended up like getting into an event. And if you finish top 10 in a tour event, at the time, you then got into the following tournament. And I kept finishing top 10 after top 10 and getting into the following weeks. And then at this point, I'd earned like enough money to keep my card already. And then everyone was talking about Rookie of the Year, which is an award that goes to the best player for their first year on tour. They're a rookie. And at the start of the year, it was never in my sights because I didn't have full status. So then people start talking about it. And then like kind of the pressure started shifting of like every event. And it was always between me and another girl. And then you'd start getting paired together because they're trying to like, you know, they want to see that competitiveness. And I think it did come down to the last event of the season, which was in Dubai at the time. And I think I had to make the cut to win it. I think it didn't then matter what she did unless she won. Oh,
so was there like a science to it? It's not like people just picking, there was like a
No, it was actually like, on points of like your results that season. It wasn't like a someone's opinion. It
Yeah.
was, on the results you did. And I ended up winning that year. So that
Nice.
was like, my first year on tour was pretty cool because I didn't actually have full status to play on it, but ended up winning.
That's amazing. So you've started from like, I don't know if I'm even going to make it, I guess, to winning Rookie of the Year and getting top 10s in all those tournaments, second in one of them as well.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And what is the transition like in your head during that period? Because, it's one thing on a scorecard and stuff like that, but what's the kind of emotional journey through that year?
I think it shows how much like your mind and like confidence plays such a big part of it, especially in golf, because I had, I didn't play well in Morocco and I was a little bit like, oh God, like I'm not sure if, I'm not good enough to play on tour. And then I went back, practiced for a bit, and then thought I'm going to go and play on the Access Series. Played there and finished second. And I was like, all right, okay, I'm kind of good enough. Between this time, I missed a tournament. I actually then played in another Access event and won it. And I only ever played 2 Access Tour events, and I finished second and then won the next one. And I remember it was like a 8-hole playoff against one of my really close friends at the time. So I had kind of won before going on to the main tour. But I still wasn't sure if I was good enough to play against like the top players. But that definitely gave me the confidence after that win. That was then, I got into a tournament, played well, finished top 10. And I think I was just kind of on a roll. Yeah. And I don't think I realised what I was doing at the time because I was just playing golf. Like my mum would come and caddy for me. Like nothing had really changed from the amateur side to me then playing in a professional tournament. I was in my own little bubble. And I think that's like so important for me at the time was I didn't get distracted by, all these professional caddies that were out there and all these professional coaches and like loads of things that change when you turn pro or you feel like you have to change. That first year I kind of did everything exactly the same as I was doing as an amateur. So the transition, was quite easy. I just didn't really change anything. And then when I went into my second year on tour, obviously there was a bit more attention on me.
There'd be so much pressure after winning Rookie of the Year as well.
Exactly, yeah. I'd won this Rookie of the Year and the girl that had won it the year before was Charlie Hull. And obviously she's gone on to do such amazing things. So it was then like, what can Amy do in the second year? And I then struggled a little bit. I was like, I got a professional caddy. I changed coaches. I did all these different things. It's then I was getting all these sponsors because I'd had such a great first year on tour. I've then got a management company and all of these things are great, but it was probably a little bit, overwhelming and things changed quite a lot in that second year. And I think I probably started to concentrate. It was less about my golf and more about, how can I make money from sponsors and all of this other things that obviously is great, but it also probably affected my golf.
And what was your golf like in that second year?
Wasn't great. I think it was still good, but it wasn't as good as the first year. So I think that was probably difficult. Was just a lot of things had changed, and after that first year, it was always going to be hard to follow that up anyway. But like I said, there was a lot of things that changed that I maybe then, I just didn't concentrate probably as hard on the golf as I should have. You think, I've already won on the Access event, series, I've won Rookie of the Year, I've done X, Y, and Z. Yeah. Maybe I don't need to practice as hard. Well, you do. And I think I probably just took my eye off the ball a little bit, and golf really grounds you brought me right back down to earth.
So what happens next? This is 2015. What happens over the next few years? Yeah,
so I kind of I was playing okay. I was keeping my card. It wasn't really anything, to scream and shout about. It was just, kind of finishing middle of the pack. Some good events, some not great. Golf's such a roller coaster of a sport. You can be in contention to win an event, then the next 6 weeks you can miss however many cuts. It's really hard to get that consistency. And I think I was probably one of them players that was a little bit inconsistent. And then I was going through a few different changes with coaches and things like that. I've always had the Welsh national coach that's always been a safety net of someone that I know that will always be there, I can rely on. He was really good at the performance side of things, where when I'd get a little bit too much swing orientated and trying to, get a perfect golf swing, he was someone that then would be right, okay, let's go out on the golf course and, hit this shot and let's do a performance game where I'm not thinking about my backswing. So he was really good at doing that with me. But then I also felt like I needed to change some things in my swing. Like there were certain shots I felt like I couldn't hit. I've always been a drawer of the golf ball, and I felt like if I was playing firm, fast greens and there was a pin tucked on the right, I couldn't hold like a shot up into that green. So I felt like that was a little bit of a disadvantage. So I went from being a drawer of the golf ball to try and, you know, hitting this fade. And it was probably the worst mistake I did of trying to change my golf swing to hit that. I think I found it really hard to have my swing of like, okay, I hit naturally a draw, to then being able to stand up on on a shot and trying to hit a fade. I found it really difficult to balance the two. Like really, it should have been you hit a natural draw, and then, you know, try and add the fade in when you need it.
Yeah. Also, you've tried to fully transition to always
then
fade
only
in.
hitting a fade.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I found it. Yeah. Obviously, it was just difficult to try and manage that. And I think then I just lost sight of like my start line on the shots and things like that. So I didn't really know where to aim on the golf course. It was like I didn't know.
I'm like that.
I didn't really know if it was going to draw or fade. And I think I then started to hit it so neutral when I was trying to figure out of, you know, the start line and the shape that I wanted to hit on the course. I was doing all these swing changes, and I think over the next few years where I was trying to change that, COVID happened, and I think it was probably the best thing that could have happened for me. I just needed a bit of a reset. Like I said, I was doing okay. Like every year on tour, I was kind of like middle of the pack. I'd gone through a few changes on the golf course with like caddies and stuff, like, you know, I'd got rid of my full-time caddy. But when COVID came along, it literally made everyone just stop. And at the time, I was probably just a bit stale with my golf, and it gave me the chance to actually really sit down, well, not sit down, but really think about what I needed to do with my golf swing and how I was going to get better, and think about it more logically of like, okay, what do you actually need to do? Luckily, my partner's a golf coach, and lockdown was perfect because we did the garden out, and we had a golf net, and I remember it being really warm during COVID. I remember like the weather was so good that I was out in the garden every day working on my golf swing. And the best thing is I couldn't see the ball flight. I couldn't see what shape I was hitting. It was more, I was changing the mechanics in my golf swing without actually seeing what shape I was hitting. I couldn't see if it was a draw. I couldn't see if it was a fade. And I think that really helped, you know, me getting the club in the right position and having a coach, you know, full-time, stood behind me.
Living in the house.
It was, honestly, it was amazing. And I think it just built my confidence. Like, I've always had a bit of a complex about my golf swing of like, oh, like if I posted it on Instagram, I'd be like, no, I need to delete it. It doesn't look good. I had such a thing of it needed to be perfect, where a golf swing does not need to be perfect. Like, I watch the girls, I watch the guys, like everyone swings it their own way. It's just about, you know, managing your bad shots, and like you've all got your own little thing in your golf swing that maybe you don't like. But I wouldn't notice it in someone's, and they probably wouldn't notice it in mine. So yeah, that was the best thing of like during COVID, really working on my swing. And when we were eventually allowed back out to play tournament golf, my first event back out was the Scottish Open, and I played absolutely horrendous. I was literally just so, it was more just having a scorecard in my hand. I wasn't used to it. And then had a little break, obviously would then go into the range and could see the ball flight, and then was like, okay, this is, you know, looking really good. Went to the Swiss Open in Switzerland, and that was when I got my first win.
Nice.
And I remember everyone was like, oh, how did you feel that week before it? And I was like, oh, I felt like I was doing loads of work on my swing. Like, I don't know, it was a really, I look back on it and I've got so many swing videos on my phone from that week, so I was working on a few things. But when I got on the golf course, I just felt really calm. I felt, I don't know, it was a funny week. And that week, I literally shot some of the best scores of my career. I think I was like, shot 8 under, 7 under, 7 under. Like, it was ridiculous scoring that I shot. Obviously, I was putting well, but I mean, I was also hitting the ball great.
And talk to me about the trophy from that tournament. I've seen a photo of it. I was like, what is that?
Everyone asks me this. Yeah, it's a cow. I don't know. I think it's obviously, you know, the animal out in Switzerland. And I don't know. It was just an unusual trophy. I mean, they obviously, the sponsors decide what the trophy is, but it's obviously an unusual one because you expect to have this big trophy that you're holding and you give it a kiss. Whereas I was
kissing a cow.
I was holding this big cow and everyone was like, kiss it. I was like, oh God, not sure about that. But it's so heavy as well. Like, it's so heavy. But like, I don't get to take that trophy home. They give you like a smaller like replica.
Mini cow.
Yeah, but it's definitely one I'm like never going to forget. Yeah.
I seen that photo. I was like, "What is that? Oh, that's your trophy, right? Okay."
Yeah.
What's the feeling like when you win?
I think I was a bit in shock. It was a weird time. Like when it was COVID, it was like no one could come near me, and I think it was only the person that was in my bubble that was allowed to hug me. Luckily, had my one of my best friends that I was rooming with that week that was also playing. So yeah, it was strange that the celebrations were maybe slightly different, but it was honestly amazing. Like, it was very much an emotional win. I felt like I'd been through a lot over the last few years with my golf, of like such a great first year and then kind of not really anything for the next few years. And then to finally get that win. To be honest, I think sometimes you think, am I ever going to win? Yeah. It got a little bit stale for a long time, and that one came not out of nowhere, but usually people have like a trending of top 10. Oh, she was always going to it was always coming. Yeah. Whereas with me, because we hadn't played for like 6 months, no one knew who was trending because no one had played. Yeah. And I think then going into the next year, I think I felt like, not that my win wasn't deserved or anything like that, but I think I felt, oh, was that win just a one-off? Was it a bit of luck? And I think I probably struggled with that a little bit the next year, of not feeling like that win was really one that, not that was deserved, but it was more, it came out of nowhere. And I was like, oh, was that just a one-off? Like, did everyone else have a bad week and I just was lucky that week? I don't know. It was a bit of a weird feeling the next year.
What do you think about that now?
No, because I look back at it and it wasn't as if I shot some fantastic scores that week. Like, it was, everything came together that week. And I think that's the funny thing about golf, is what I now realise is, especially watching the men's golf, I think, you can miss cuts and then 1 week win. And it's just more, things just need to click. And a lot of the times I think with me on the golf course, a lot of it's been mental. Yeah. And it's been myself stopping, myself from winning or having a good week. Yeah. So yeah, I think I definitely struggled with it the year after. But now I look back on it and think, no, I did deserve to win. I worked hard in that, COVID times, that off season, and I remember just being in the house literally every day, just hitting balls and putting on the carpet and things like that. So I definitely know I deserved to win. It was more just, I think because I struggled the year after, I was like, why am I not in contention every week? I've been playing well. I've won last week. How am I not in contention? So I think that was probably more the feeling. Yeah.
And did that ever fix? Did you ever get away from that feeling afterwards?
I actually lost my tour card that following year, and I had to go back to Q school. So I think obviously struggled after winning of I don't know, I think I won and I didn't understand why I wasn't playing well straight after it. It was like I'd just gone, not backwards, but I was like, oh, I felt like I'd finally got my golf into a good place swing-wise. How is it not performing every week? I couldn't understand how I went from winning to missing cuts every week. And I don't know, I honestly don't know the reason. I think it was maybe a little bit more mental. Lost my tour card, and I was a little bit embarrassed about losing my tour card. I was like, I've literally won less than 12 months ago and I've got to go back to Q school. And not only did I have to go to Q school, I had to go to first stage, which, they have 2 stages in Q school. There's first stage, which is, if you've just turned pro, you enter, and first stage would be the one that there's 300 people that go to it. Yeah. And then the top so many get through to final stage, and the final stage is where people that have lost their card, that have to come back, because I'd had such a bad year that year. Wow. I couldn't even get into final stage. So I was like, oh, I've got to go back to first stage. What if, and there's things that run through your head of, what if I don't get through first stage? I was just a bit embarrassed of, I've won. And then even people that I was playing with in practice rounds at Q school, they were like, oh, what are you doing here? Yeah. Shouldn't you be in final stage? And it was just a bit I remember just being embarrassed, and I literally did not want anyone to like not talk to me, but I didn't want to go for dinner with anyone or anything like that. But yeah, luckily I got my card back. I actually won Q School, so that was felt good to feel like
It's such a roller coaster.
I know, honestly, but I actually like haven't really spoken about like the whole career in one conversation, and you think, oh my god, there were so many highs but also like so many lows,
and like at different points. It's not like we've gone to like one big high and a lot together. It's like woo!
Basically, yeah, it's like a lot.
Yeah. And what happened next after that?
I think after that, same again, it was more just not really anything to really write about. It was just kind of steady stuff, not that great, like not in contention, but when I say that, like making cuts. But I think over the last probably 2-3 years, I was then starting to mentally really struggle on the golf course. As you can tell, like a lot of scars of, some of the bad rounds and bad tournaments. And I think it's quite hard as you get older to get over them. And the anxiety on the golf course was getting worse. And I was starting to not really enjoy it that much. Like, I loved the traveling. I loved being away with my friends. But actually, when I was out on the golf course, I was really struggling, like, because everyone's like, well, were you nervous? And I was like, I'm not nervous. It's more like an anxiety feeling. Like, it's different. It was like I felt sick, and I was thinking about all the places I didn't want to hit it. And I was thinking, what if I bogey the next 10 holes? I'm not going to break 90. And like stupid things like that were going through my head, which is ridiculous because, I'm only in control of like what I can do in the next shot. And I was thinking 2 hours from now, what I'm going to do on the 17th hole. I'm worried already because that 17th hole has water left and I'm hitting a bit left. And it was just such a like, I look back and I think mentally you were quite weak in them last couple of years. And I started to see a psychologist. I always struggled though. I always found it really hard to find the right psychologist because obviously, they want you to think positively and they go through all these different methods of how to get you in them states. But I could do it in practice. It was trying to do it under pressure and trying to recreate the pressure of them tournaments on tour to when I was in practice. It was quite difficult. So that was the issue I had. I think it was just wearing me down over the last couple of years, which now coming onto the decision to actually stop playing, a lot of it was because of kind of the anxiety and struggles I had on the golf course.
And looking back on that now, do you think any differently of that period?
I was a little bit like sad that I probably didn't not try harder because I felt like at the time I was really I think now knowing some of the people I know, I wish I knew them people back then to get that help. And I'm not saying that I'm never gonna, like, because now I've retired, people are like, oh, will you never play again or never play a tour
That was going to be my next question.
Yeah, I don't know. I sometimes think, I don't know. I think if I can get myself into a really good place, I still practice quite a bit. I still play. Obviously, I'm in the perfect place being in Dubai. I'm very lucky. My boyfriend's a golf coach, one of the best golf coaches in my opinion. So I'm lucky that I'm surrounded by a lot of really good people in the game. But I don't know. It's a maybe, but I'm still going to be involved in golf and, the things I do next.
Yeah. What is next?
Yeah, a lot of people have asked me. I think it's been a really weird period recently of like, I think when you stop playing a sport, or I suppose it depends, in whatever you do, when it's something that's been your whole life, what do you then, because I never went to college or university, so I have no qualifications to really go and do something like that specializes in something. It was like trying to make that decision over the last few months of what do I really want to get into. I've been doing a little bit of TV work, been going into Sky doing like studio guest stuff, trying to see if I enjoy that side of things, which I do. So then I thought, right, okay, maybe I should push that a little bit more because I think sometimes you've got to like, if you don't ask, you're not going to get, like nothing's going to fall into your lap. Like you have to work for what you want. I've also done like radio commentary over the last couple of years at like the Women's Open and things like that. And I've always really enjoyed it. So I was like, right, okay, maybe something like that I could go into. So I've been really lucky that I've got some opportunities this year with the Legends Tour, which is the guys over the age of 50 that play on tour. and also like getting to work with some of like the legends of the game, like Colin Montgomery and people like that. So I'm just really excited to kind of explore kind of the TV side of things. That's a start, doing like the Legends tour, and then also going to be doing some work with the women's tour of some on-course commentary, which is something I've always wanted to do, but because it's obviously I've done it with radio, different with TV. So I'm excited to kind of dip my toes into doing something like that.
It's quite a good natural progression, isn't it, into that?
Yeah, and obviously I've watched like a lot of people that I've been close to kind of, Incy's does great. She's working on the men's tour. Henny, like she's awesome on Sky. So, and I've got a lot of good people that, give me a lot of great advice that kind of have been there and done it.
You'll be quite appealing probably to TV channels as well, with you having such a good career. I know there's been ups and downs, and you're young as well, which I think will help. Yeah,
I think it helps. Like even like, I think to have said that you've like won on tour, and like I've obviously got a good all-round career of like the amateur side and things like that. I think it's hopefully a good thing to have been like a past player and kind of give your insight, especially I think with the women's game. Like I think that's what I'm going to enjoy most, of being on the course, and I know all the girls really well, and because the guys play a lot differently, like it's a totally different game, whereas with the women, when I like can see what lie they've got and I know how they hit it, I can hopefully give people watching a little bit of an insight.
And now you've got an OnlyFans account, but not for what people traditionally use it for. But what did you do on there?
So basically they approached my management a year ago and wanting to sponsor athletes. So I think Nick Kyrgios had just signed, they'd signed, I think, a boxer, like a load of different people.
I know a couple of people on it. Brendan Loughran that lives here, that's MMA, he's been signed to them and stuff like that.
So I think they're basically just wanting to change people's perception of the site. They don't want it to be known as, just adult content. And I was really sceptical at first because I was like, being the first golfer, I know that they do have a male golfer on there, but he doesn't play on the main tour. I knew that being on tour and kind of signing with them as a female as well was going to be quite like there was going to be a lot of like judgmental comments and things like that, and there was at the start. Like, it was a lot more positive than I actually thought when it first got announced. I had probably like pre-warned a few people to say like, this is
Mum,
this is what's happening. She keeps calling it OnlyFans and OnlyFriends, sorry, and I'm like, it's not called OnlyFriends.
Let her go for that. That's good.
But so it's been a really positive experience so far. I've been sponsored by them for a year, and I basically post golf and fitness content. It's pretty similar to, like, I post a lot of fitness stuff on my Instagram account, kind of similar, but a little bit more in depth. I give people the chance to message me and I give them a free golf lesson.
Oh, nice.
I mean, I say free, it's a minimum of like £5. Like my page is actually completely free to look at it. So they can see like videos and content or whatever. To actually speak to me, they have to pay a fee, and that's because usually they're asking me for a golf lesson, and I'll basically send them a personalised video of like a drill or whatever. Nice. They'll send me a video of their golf swing, and I'll send them something that can hopefully help improve them. So it's been a positive experience so far. And I know that they've kind of getting into sponsoring a few golfers this year. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how their trajectory goes. But from my point of view, it's been a positive experience. Nice.
They've got so much money, right, that they can transition into whatever they want.
Yeah, and I think like there's so many people on that web. Like, they started it to give people an insight into like, there's loads of people that do cooking stuff on there and dancers and all of these different accounts, which is quite informative actually. But people don't obviously see it as that because they've got such a big perception of it being an adult, content website. So I mean, if you want to get any golf tips, then you can follow me on there.
How do they find you?
I mean, it's just my name. Like mine. My Amy Boulden is my name on the account, and if anybody wants any golf tips or whatever, they can find me on there.
Nice. The other thing you mentioned there was fitness videos. You are a machine. I've seen on your Instagram you're throwing things above your head with one hand that I probably couldn't deadlift.
Yeah, so I think when I started struggling with my golf over the last couple of years, that was something I got into. Actually, all thanks to probably my sister and also my fitness coach that I was seeing back at home in North Wales, Georgia. They both, obviously, Georgia's a fitness coach, like she's massively into her fitness, but my sister started seeing her and getting into these classes, and I started joining her. And kind of fell in love with the fitness side of things. And then she started entering some high rocks competitions. And I'd never heard of it at the time, wasn't really paying any attention. I just thought she was going, midlife crisis. Like she was literally going insane of training every day. And
now you've joined her on the
and I've now
crisis.
joined, now people think I'm insane. It's basically just quite addictive. And I think it really took my mind off the golf, to be honest, especially last year when I knew I was going to stop playing. I needed to focus on something else that was going to keep my mind busy, and that definitely does. But high rocks events are basically you run 8 kilometers, and after every 1 kilometer you do a fitness station, whether it's the rowing machine or the ski erg or burpee broad jumps. There's obviously 8 different stations, and I entered one with my sister last year, my other sister who's also into a fitness, and we did, like, it was a really fun competition. And I said it was the first time I felt them, like, excited nerves that I get in golf, like, outside of golf. It was the first time I felt that. And I was like, okay, this is something that I want to carry on. Like, God, I'm never going to be elite or anything like that. But it's something that, you're only trying to beat yourself on your previous time or whatever. And I've been really lucky out here since I've moved that I've joined an amazing gym at Athlete, and such an amazing community of people that are all like-minded, and I get to train. Literally, I go to that gym every day just because I love it. Yeah, I absolutely love it. And I think it really, keeps your mind busy, and it's been kind of great to concentrate on something other than the stresses of golf I've had over the years.
Nice. A lot of people in my gym do high rocks. It seems to be like a massive thing now. Yeah,
I think it's just, hybrid training in general is just like blown up. A lot of people running more now. I'm not sure why it blew up so big, but I mean, the competitions are awesome. I've actually entered 3 already this year. I've never done a singles. I've done a doubles with my sister in Scotland in March. And then I've entered 2 singles, one out here and then one in Thailand.
Oh, nice.
Just because I was like, why not? If I'm going to do all this training, I may as well, go through the competition aspect. I'm actually really nervous, but I'm looking forward to it at the same time. I don't know. I think because you want to be good at something, and
you're taking over that competitive mindset.
Exactly, yeah. Like, it's not just about entering and seeing what time I can get. I know that I'll always have a time in the back of my head, and if I don't get it, I'll be annoyed. That's just the competitive nature I've got from kind of growing up playing golf. So, but I thought I want to be able to test myself, and I think it's a good thing. And yeah.
Do you think you're filling the void of golf?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, definitely. But then again, like, I still, I'm very lucky that I think I lost the love of golf because of the struggles I've had over the last few years. And now I've stopped competing. I'm slowly getting it back. I play socially now, which the last couple of years, if someone said to me, like, do you want to go and play a round of golf with me? I'd be like, no. Yeah. I need to go to the range. I need to work on this. I need to work on that. Whereas now I'm like, oh yeah, like, I'd love to go and have a friendly match and kind of enjoy being back on the golf course. I really lost that. Even like my dad's such a keen golfer, like, he literally plays every day. And I want that to be something that we can go and do together without it being me being stressed because of how I'm hitting the ball. It shouldn't matter now. Like, I'm not competing. Yeah. So definitely when I go home, and they're going to come out and visit, so I'm going to have to line up some golf for him, and nice. Yeah, it'll be nice to go out and enjoy it.
Nice. What's your proudest moment?
Good question. Probably getting the win, I would say. When I look back on that, like, it was such a blur of a week. Like, it's like it didn't happen. It's really weird. I'd love to rewind to that week and relive it. Like, I remember, like, the calmness of coming down 18. Like, I would always thought that if I, like, to be fair,
was it close?
I did have a bit of a lead.
Right.
I did, but the 18th tee shot was out of bounds or left, and you kind of had to cut the corner a little bit. And my miss was always left. So, but I just remember being like, I think I had like a 3-shot lead or whatever. And
No wonder you were calm.
well, I didn't know it until after the tee shot. I think
fair.
when that tee shot, I was like, do you know, I'm going to kind of take it in. Yeah, so that would probably be.
I'd have gone the whole way with a pitching wedge.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. That would be definitely up there, because I think no one can take that away from me. I'm a Ladies European Tour winner, and not many people can kind of say they've won on tour at the highest level. So that's definitely.
That's with you forever.
Yeah, I also had a top 10 in the Open, and I'm not that was one of my best weeks of my life, because obviously that is the best of the best. And I got to play with like Lexi Thompson on the weekends, So Yun Ryu. Like, it was just so many amazing memories. My whole family were there. So that was also one that, like, I'll never forget. Like, that's always springs to mind when someone asks me that kind of question.
They're the two kind of, from what I've seen, massive things.
Yeah, I mean, it shouldn't always be like results based, but I mean, you can't.
That's what you can remember when you're 60 and you're looking back on it. You've won a tournament. You've been top 10 in a major.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Nice. Talk to me about some of the bits you don't see about being a professional golfer.
I would say it's a lot of like admin that people don't realise.
I hate admin.
I think, especially for us that maybe don't have like the management side that books everything for you. Like, I spend a lot of time booking flights, trying to find the best deals on car hire and hotels.
So you're having to do this in amongst playing and travelling. Oh my God.
Yeah. Like, I know that it's different, obviously, for the men's tour, that they have someone that, you know, organises all of that. But for us, yeah, especially because we wanted to find the best deal. Like, we don't want to be spending fortunes on hotels and flights. And
you're basically a business.
Yeah. So you basically, I think, booking everything yourself. And the hardest thing is when you're like lugging golf clubs through airports. Honestly, like, now when I travel and I go home and I don't take my golf clubs, it's the nicest feeling not having to drag my golf clubs through an airport. Like, people don't realise it's because they're heavy. So yeah, I think things like that is things that maybe people don't see. And
you've got your golf clubs, but you've also got a month, 2 months, 3 months worth of clothes and like, oh my God.
It's just like you're pulling a golf bag, you've got your suitcases. It's it's a lot. It's quite stressful. But yeah, I think it sounds so glamorous. You're a professional golfer and you get to travel the world. Like, yeah, there's some really like great parts to it, but there's also some things where you're like, traveling is a nightmare. And like, there's one girl on tour where she, bless her, I don't know why it keeps happening to her, like so many delayed flights, so many cancelled flights, losing luggage, and yeah, things like that. It happens all the time. Like, travelling's, a lot can go wrong.
Yeah. And who pays for all that?
We do.
So, like, that takes so much off of your win.
Yeah, and I think that's what, that's why we try and find all these deals. Like, we all room together, like, we don't get the privilege of being able to be like to our boyfriend or family, like, oh, do you want to come and travel with us this week? Because I have to room with 2 other girls or 1 other girl, or we get a house of 6 of us to split the cost. Like, most of the time we'll try and do an Airbnb, because if we get a house,
that makes sense.
You can fit more people in it and you can split the price even, smaller. So I know a lot of people that get to travel, and if they're lucky enough that they get to bring their coach out to a tournament, like, that's always what I think sometimes the biggest difference between the men's and the women's tour is they get to take their coach to pretty much every event. Like, so personally, I think how can it go that wrong if you've got a coach stood behind you every day when you're like away? Like, there can't really be too much that goes wrong with your swing anyway. Mentally, it's different.
No, that's
Whereas
what I was going to say. Yeah.
I see my coach once every 6 weeks because I can't afford to bring them out to every event. And then when I do decide, okay, I'm going to invest in bringing my coach out to a tournament, it costs a fortune. Yeah. And if I don't finish top 20 that week, I'm losing money. But
so is that where you need to be, do you think, top 20 to kind of break even?
Yeah, it's definitely getting better. We've been lucky, like the Saudis have invested so much money in women's golf. So the tournaments that we play, that they sponsor, we play for a lot more money. So that's always been great. They've always helped out with like just little things as well, like the tournaments that we go to that they put on, like free physio, like things like that. Like, we have physios that travel with the tour every week, but we have to pay per session. And sometimes, like, there's niggles. Like, I've had, wrist injuries over the last couple of years as well, and you need to see a physio every day. That money adds up. And I think that's things that people don't realise is that, you know, they think we get all these things for free when actually they're all things that we pay for.
Even, like, I think these things through, and some of the stuff you've said, thought of, but, like, yeah, physios, I would just assume that you had physios. I would assume that you had, like, kind of the fundamental stuff provided.
Yeah.
It sounds like that's maybe happening now.
They're provided. So we have, like, full-time physios and masseuses that travel with the tour.
But you've got to pay.
We have to pay, yeah. But that, like I said, when the Saudis came in, they kind of cover
changed
that expense, which has been great. So, yeah, lucky that. But things like that with other tours, they get all of that provided. And, you know, which I get, like, it's bigger stage, isn't it? Men's golf's huge. But, yeah, hopefully things are starting to change where, yeah, we get kind of a little bit more investment.
What do you think of disparity between men's pay and women's pay in sport in general?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously there is a big difference. Like, it's nice to see tennis getting better and women's football, golf's getting better. Like, I think we're all moving in the right direction. And, yeah, obviously I'd love to say, like, that it should all be equal pay. But I also understand that, you know, the need, like, people seem to want to watch men's golf more than women's golf, and unfortunately if there's more eyes on men's golf, we're not going to get the investment into women's golf. I think it would just be good that if we could showcase how good the women are, and especially like over the last couple of years, the improvement I've seen in women's golf is unbelievable.
Well, in terms of like quality, in terms of what,
yeah, I just think like the quality has got so much better. I think that the bottom half has got so much stronger. Like normally there's a bit of a, you know, it's not as good bottom to top. Whereas now I think the gap's getting much closer. Like cuts now a level par or under par, whereas they used to probably be a couple over. I think things like the scoring's getting better. The players are just getting better. Coaching's getting better. So everything's improving, and hopefully, the money improves for us too. And I mean, we're lucky we still get to play for a lot of money, you know, most weeks, and I can see how much that's changed over the last couple of years. Like, I think, oh, I wish I was playing this year because the money's gone up. But it's amazing. It's amazing to see that it's, you know, improving every year.
So what sort of money did you get for a win now? And what would a equivalent men's tournament get?
Good question. So on average, we play for like, I'm trying to think, between 300,000 euros total prize fund.
Total for everyone?
For everyone.
Right, wow.
Between 300,000 and $1 million.
Right, okay.
So like the lower, like probably the European events are usually around 300,000, between 300 and 500,000, most of the European events. So if you're playing in one like that, you're probably going to earn, I don't know, 50,000 euros for first place.
Yeah.
And obviously then it goes down quite a lot. But then if you're playing for $1 million.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's better.
It's obviously much better. But then when you play for them bigger prize funds that you play for $1 million, you then get the girls coming from the US, the better players that will all come and enter them events because they're the biggest ones, and the sponsors want them top players coming to support their event at the same time. But then it's harder to win. So it's hard. But I'm trying to think what the men's, I'm trying to think who, you know, the Dubai Desert Classic, what the guy would have won.
I want to say $9 million rings a bell for like a kind of average one, but I might have completely made that up.
Yeah, I think it's like total prize funds. So it'd be like, I don't know, 1.5. God,
so it's a massive, massive difference.
Oh yeah.
And like if you win, even if you win on the ladies European tour, right, that doesn't pay for your year.
No.
Like you've still got to get more results to even get the last flight of the year.
Yeah, exactly. It's
that must be so hard.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It is hard, but at the same time, it's like if you've got sponsors, which hopefully will pay towards your travel and hotels and your expenses for the year, then hopefully you would pocket the money that you get. Obviously, you have to pay percentages to your caddy. So that's like if you win 50 grand, 10%'s gone to your caddy.
Yeah.
Probably 5%'s gone to your coach. And then you pay tax.
Yeah.
So by the time you've actually what you take home, you're like, all right, okay. So yeah, it's difficult, but also at the same time, like the things that come along with that. If you win a tournament, sponsors come in, and then you're going to make more money. So it's kind of a knock-on effect of if you're winning golf tournaments, you're absolutely fine because you're making money off the golf course as well.
And what sort of point do you think you need to get to get good enough sponsors to cover your year?
I think getting sponsors is all about being personable. I think you've got to be a good person. I think you've got to, it's got to work well for both of you. Like if you just have this big company that comes in that wants to give you some money, like for me personally, I want to get to know the sponsor. I want to be able to kind of do golf days for them and be involved in other things that they want me to kind of get involved in. I think it should be a partnership rather than I'm just taking their money and not going to speak to them for the whole year. But yeah, I think you've got to give back because, yeah, they obviously want to sponsor you, but especially like in women's golf, like the TV coverage obviously isn't as much as the men. So them putting a logo on your sleeve, are they really getting that much out of putting a logo on my sleeve? Playing a golf tournament, I might not get on TV all week if I'm not in contention.
Yeah.
So I understand like that they sponsor the big players for them reasons, but the other players that they're putting logos on, what are they really getting out of them? That's why you need to make sure that you're doing golf days for them. You need to make sure that you're entertaining their customers and kind of
playing the pro-ams like you said earlier.
Playing pro-ams and things like that, making sure that you're giving back to them because otherwise you're going to lose them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Let's talk about pressure. So, like, I bet on golf, I've maybe at most £500 on the round, which is probably quite a lot. I crumble when I've got a shot for 500 quid. What's it like when you've got a shot for these bigger numbers that we're talking about?
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, I think if you're playing well and you're in contention and you've got all that pressure on you, like, you kind of thrive on that because you know you're in a good position. And that's when you have to step up. That's the reason why we practice, is to get into them positions. And if you fail and you don't pull the shot off, okay, you've learned from it and you'll do, like, hopefully do better next time. It's like all a learning experience. I think if you worry about crumbling and you think about that, you probably will. Whereas if you, like, you know, take it all in and you're like, right, okay, I've got to step up here.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't come off, it doesn't come off. But what's the worst thing that can happen? You don't win the tournament or you hit it in the water or whatever. But, I mean, that's going to happen more if you think that's going to happen. So I think that's where it's just so important to be really clear and good mentally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that makes a lot of sense to me, right? Because any sport, I will crumble completely. But
we should get you a psychologist.
Yeah. But see, in business, I'm great. Like, put me in the most high intense position ever. I'll fix it. I'll enjoy it. Like, I love being under pressure
that's
at
probably
work.
because that's what you're
That's
good at.
what I do. Yeah. But yeah, on the golf course, like, I will completely crumble. I just recently, a couple of weeks ago, I was playing against my friend for, I think, about 500 quid. And he took an 8 on the 18th on Earth. So the big one with the water. He put the ball in the water twice. And he's good. Like, he's, you know, shoots maybe 5-10 over. I took a 9. I think just because he took an 8 and it was to win it as well. If I'd even got an 8, I'd have won. Funny. And I took a 9. Like, I've never taken a 9 in my life on that hole. But yeah, I don't know. I just crumble under the pressure with sport.
Yeah. I mean, I think, like, obviously you're getting business, so that's what you would thrive on, and probably, you know, the pressure you wouldn't feel it as much. Like, we all feel pressure in golf, being professional golfers, but we probably maybe enjoy it a little bit more, or kind of we know how to handle the situation a little bit better. Like, if I'm nervous and I've got a shot that's, you know, unlikely to be pulled off, like it's a 2 in 10 chance of pulling it off, I'm going to go for the safer option because I know that, you know, my body's feeling a little bit more nervous. What's the kind of, if I need to make birdie down the last, how do I make birdie down the last? And it's more logical thinking than kind of, you know, reactive.
And that's where the mental thing comes in that we've been speaking about, of you'll make the wrong decisions. I make the wrong decisions when I need to, when you're standing over the ball.
Absolutely,
if your head's gone.
Yeah, for sure. And that, like I said, like, I can't stress that having probably a decent, I mean, I say a decent psychologist, but also just having the tools to know how to handle them situations. Like, if you know how to handle the pressure that you're under, that's, you know, the most important thing.
What is it like on the roller coaster? Like, what are you like mentally during that whole process? 'Cause you've been so up and down.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like my probably 7-8 years of tour life was pretty good. Like, I had such a fun time. I felt like, when I look back on it now, was good. I think when you're in it and you miss cuts, you remember the missed cuts more than you do the top tens. And I think that was probably, you know, when I think back to that time, I was probably remembering the missed cuts too much. Yeah. Whereas I look back now and I go, actually, I played quite well in them years. So I think, I mean, I look back on the career and I think I actually, it was decent, but you always remember, unfortunately, some of the bad times. But I'm getting more so now to kind of appreciate what I've actually done.
Yeah. And it's funny, right? Because I always think about sports people and think like, yeah, of the field that plays professionally, you're in the top 20% or 30% or whatever. But in the field of people that want to play professionally, you're in the top 0.0000001%.
I think you're always thinking about the people that are better than you and kind of what you're striving to be. And if you don't get that, you feel like you failed. Whereas actually, if I think back to 17-year-old me when I wanted to turn pro, would I have taken what I'd done? Absolutely.
Yeah,
I'd take a win. Well, technically 2 wins if you count the feeder tour. The top 10s I've had, how many times I've been in contention. Like, if you could have given me that, for sure. At that time, I didn't even know if I'd make it on tour. So it's kind of, you put it all into perspective.
And it's good that you're able to do that now so soon after stopping.
Yeah, I think like I said, when you're in it, you're always looking at the person that's better than you with their careers, and you want to be like, do what they're doing, and you want to be better than them. You want to have X amount of wins, like you're looking at the best players in the world.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to do that because then you'll always kind of hopefully do better than what you can do. But you also have to appreciate what you've actually done. And, I look back now and I think I've won. I've done kind of, if you asked me what my goals were when I was an amateur, I would have been like, I want to win a tour event. That would have been my biggest one. Like, my other one was I wanted to play in a Solheim Cup. Unfortunately, I never got to play in a Solheim Cup, but I remember my first 2 years on tour, there was a lot of talk of could Amy be a pick. So I was spoken about maybe. Didn't quite get the call up, but I mean, there's not many people that have played in Solheim Cups.
No.
But my goal as a kid was to win a tour event, and I did that. So you kind of have to look back and be like, actually, I achieved my goals.
Top 10 in the major as well, that's obviously a massive one. If you said that to 17-year-old you'd be delighted.
And I think just being in contention with the best players in the world, like, that's what I would have always wanted. And I remember I played with Lexi Thompson on that Saturday, and I had the round of the day in the worst weather. And I look back and I think, God, that was like, I shot the best score of the day out of the best players in the world. Yeah. Like, it's quite a cool achievement.
Yeah, massive. I don't do this personally enough, right? I don't look back and go, or even look around and go, you've actually done quite well here. I'm always, exactly as what you're saying, looking forward. So it's good to hear you reflectively think, actually, that was quite good.
Yeah, and I think, like, life's so fast-paced, isn't it? No one ever really gets a chance to sit down and be like, God, that was good what I did last year. And I think that's probably, around, just after Christmas, before the new year, everyone should take the time of being like, okay, I actually, achieved X, Y, and Z. And that's probably a good thing why people do write down goals sometimes. If you can then look back and be like, actually, I can tick all of them off. And if you didn't, then, okay, this is what I can do better next year to tick them off. So, yeah, I think sometimes trying to be reflective is an important thing.
I sometimes find like older goal stuff that I've written down, right? And it's like, say, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And I look and I'm like, oh my God, that's what I was aiming for.
Yeah.
Like, I've absolutely smashed that. And at no point have I said to myself, well done.
I know, it's nuts, isn't it? You don't give yourself enough credit for what you've actually achieved.
No.
And everyone's trying to do the best they can. And you look back on it and you think, actually, like, I mean, even just little things. Like, I never thought I'd probably move to Dubai. And I've done that. And I think, oh, that's actually like, you've done that. That's I've done that myself. Just little things, that you should, be proud that you've done.
Talk to me about the move to Dubai. How's it been?
It's been good. I mean, I feel like it's a second home anyway because I've spent every winter here for the last, 15 years. Like, my sister used to live in Abu Dhabi. She used to work at Abu Dhabi Golf Club. So that was always like a second home. I used to spend a lot of time there. And I think I always knew that I wanted to live somewhere sunny. And I always felt like that because I wanted to play golf all year round. And this is probably one of the perfect places to be in the winter when it's freezing back home in the UK. The move happened because boyfriend lives here. He's a golf coach, travels on the men's tour, and this has been his base for the last 3 years.
Oh, wow. So you've been apart for 3 years?
It's a long story. We actually weren't together the last 2 years.
Right.
So he was an turning into a relationship thing. He was an ex-boyfriend. We had a 2 year break and we got back together a year ago. Okay. But always stayed like really close friends. He was someone that, coached me while I won, and you know, we've always had such a close friendship. Like, he's always been like my best friend. And I think in them 2 years of a break, you know, he needed to go and, you know, do amazing things on the tour that he's done, coaching, you know, some of the best players. And I think I probably needed to go through what I went through, you know, thinking about quitting golf and things like that. So the move happened mainly because he was here. And also, I think, like, opportunity-wise, there's a lot of opportunities here. I think I, you know, feel happier in the sun.
Yeah.
I feel healthier being here. It's been an easy transition.
Yeah. There's a lot of people for everything here, right? And especially sports, golf. You're talking about Saudi. Like, you'll have a lot more opportunities living here.
Yeah, and I'm hoping to do a little bit of golf coaching, actually. I'd love to be able to, especially over in Saudi. Like, I've been sponsored by Golf Saudi over the last few years, so I've had a close relationship with them since, you know, they first started wanting to get involved in golf. And I'd love to kind of give back a little bit of, you know, coaching some of the women and kids over there, because while I was sponsored by them and I do clinics, like, during the tournaments, like, God, the kids over there just absolutely love it. And I've never seen, like I always said, the clinics I've done, they've always been the most enthusiastic.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it's because...
Well, like local kids, Saudi kids.
Local kids, yeah. They just absolutely love it. Like, they were so excited. The women, like, you know, normally they're a little bit like... When I go and do golf clinics, people are a bit timid to come and, like, actually give it a go, a bit nervous because, you know, they've never done it before. Whereas over in Saudi, they were, like, wanting to, you know, get right involved. And I loved that.
They're so ballsy in this region, aren't they? Like, not just kids, everyone's just so confident.
Yeah, they just, wanted to try. And I was like, do you know, I love that. And I know that, you know, they've not had the opportunities to kind of have that golf coaching. And I'd love to, as a past player, be able to kind of give my, you know, take and help them.
Yeah. I think that in 10 years' time, Saudi people are just going to be great at every sport, right? Because they've got the football, they've got golf, they're doing everything. That these kids are going to be incredible in 10 years'
Exactly.
time.
I think, like, over the next few years, there's going to be so many opportunities. And as they keep building more and more hotels and golf courses, and, you know, they're going to want it to be a tourist destination, I think it's amazing. And, you know, if I can kind of start now at the kind of the start of it all, I'd love to kind of, you know, be a part of that history making.
Yeah. Just about everyone I know in sport has had an offer from Saudi that's like at an okay level, whether they're football coaches or boxers or whatever. Like, everyone seems to have had some sort of offer from Saudi. Yeah.
I think there's just so much, like, need to, like, you know, bring people over there to kind of, you know, coach football or golf or whatever it is. You know, they have such huge plans out there. Like, I've, you know, seen it over the last 5-6 years. I was there when they first opened the golf course at Royal Greens, and just, like, the plans that they've got are huge.
It's probably, whenever people ask me about here, like, will you ever leave Dubai? I'm like, no way in hell, I am here forever. It's probably the only place that I think could eventually, not yet, take me away from here.
Yeah. It's interesting to hear you say that, actually. Most people are like, oh, I'll stay here for, like, 4 or 5 years.
I'm never leaving. No
To
way.
be fair, I feel like that a little bit now. I feel like everything's so easy here.
Yeah.
I mean, we are definitely spoiled. Like,
there's a button for everything.
I
Fuel,
mean, honestly, I feel awful.
shopping.
I went back to see my parents over Christmas, and just getting, like, food, because I'm not the best cook. And I was like, I can't get something delivered healthy on delivery. Like, they don't really do delivery where I live. Like, can't get, like, you know, there's no Uber either. So it was like, if an Uber or a taxi isn't outside my house within 5 minutes when I order one here, I'm like, oh, cancel. Like, I'll order another one because there'll be one quicker. Whereas that is just ridiculous. I need to get out of that habit, because that is...
I'm exact same.
You need to remember, like...
I struggle going on holiday now, right? We went to Bali, and the food was taking too long and nobody was really telling me what was going on. I was getting so wound up because it's like, why is it not taking 50 minutes? Why is it like... I feel like wherever you go, everything's just harder.
I know, it is. And I think...
And dirtier. Like, everywhere's so clean here.
It is really clean. And I think we are spoiled here, aren't we? Like, for sure. And I think I sometimes need to remember, Amy, come on. Don't be so spoiled. There's people a lot worse off. So, I think it's an amazing place to live, though. Like, there's so many opportunities here. And I think that's been, you know, it's going to be quite exciting to kind of, you know, properly settle here. I've not been here long, so it's, you know, I'm excited to actually settle.
Nice. Right, back to golf. We've only got a couple more things I want to ask. What's it like the day that you decide, you know what, I'm going to retire?
I think I'd been thinking about it for a while. And I had this post written out ready on Instagram because I was thinking, do I announce it or do I just leave it and just kind of fizzle out of the
How long
golf
did you have
scene?
it written for?
Well, so my last tournament I played was in May.
Right.
And then I was kind of going through a few injury issues and, you know, obviously, as I said, I was struggling like mentally with like the anxiety side of things. So I knew that I was going to have a break after that anyway. Didn't think it would actually be my last event. Kind of wish it wasn't because it didn't end. I actually withdrew.
Right.
So I kind of wish it ended in a better way. But I couldn't bring myself to enter a competition after it. Right. I was thinking maybe Saudi in like November would have been my last event of the year because I was like, that's one of the last events. It's a nice one. You know, they've a sponsor. It would have been quite nice to say my farewells at that event. But I just didn't feel like I wanted to play. I was like, I don't feel like I was ready mentally, physically. So I was like, do you know what? I'm actually just going to write something because one, I wanted to let sponsors know. I also wanted to thank people. Like, you know, I have a half decent following on social media and I thought these people have followed my career. They kind of deserve to know what I'm actually up to. I get a lot of questions, you know, why you're not playing, what you're up to, what's next. And I think people probably saw it coming. Yeah. So I was like, I'm going to have to write something because it's not, you know, I want to let people know what the next move is and what I'm, you know, thank them for their support. So yeah, I probably had it written out for a couple of months. Right. Kept changing. So yeah, I'd actually written this post out for the last couple of months and I was like, when do I actually post it? And I'd got people to my boyfriend to look over it and make sure that, you know, and I was asking people like, do I need to post something? And some people said, no, I don't think you need to. And then some people were like, oh, I think you maybe should put something out, especially for like sponsors. And I'd already spoken to a lot of people to like sponsor wise and said, you know, I'm not going to be playing next year. Like, thank you for everything. So they kind of knew it was coming. So I just thought it was the easiest way of kind of letting everyone know. But yeah, there was obviously like, you know, posts then people are saying like the Ladies European Tour had posted like, oh, you know, she like I've retired or whatever and posted like a lot of like throwback pictures. And I looked back at them and I was like, oh, like it was actually some, fond memories.
Nice. You've avoided the word retirement a bit. Like when I've said, you've kind of said stopped playing. Yeah. Is there something there?
I just think retirement makes
you sound old.
Yeah, it makes me sound old. And then when I have said that, people are like, retired? Like, how old are you? So I think it's maybe because every time I do say that word, the reaction of the other person's always like, retired? Like, you're only young. Like, it's not really retiring. Yeah. Technically is, though, because I'm retiring from, you know, what I was doing. But then people are like, oh, would you ever play again? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm never going to close the door completely because over the next couple of years, I might just, you know, practice so hard and think, oh, I've got that competitiveness that I want to get back and the urge to get back out. Mentally, I might feel in a really good place to do that. But if I'm honest, I doubt it. Yeah. I might play like pro-ams and things like I always think it's really good to keep kind of your foot in the door of playing competitively, odd pro-am. Yeah, I think it's always really good to kind of keep in with the golf stuff.
Definitely, even with like external opportunities like TV and stuff like that, like you want to be around it.
Yeah, and I think, you know, if I'm going to do any on-course commentary, I need to be playing quite often to, you know, get the feel of like the lies and how you'd play the shot, and yeah, you can't be out of that.
You've had some crazy ups and downs. We've touched on that a couple of times. What is it like at the worst times?
Pretty tough. Yeah, I remember like I've obviously had. I look back now and I think, God, Amy, it wasn't that deep. Like it's just a game. But I remember when I was in the real like low of the lows, and you know I had to speak to my parents about it because I was like, I'm not in a good place here, and I think they could see it. Like a lot of people around me were quite worried about me, and you know you hear a lot of more people now coming out about like the struggles that they have when you know they're playing golf or whatever they're doing. Really, it's not just golfers. A lot of people struggle. I think you know you're in a high pressure job. You feel like there's a lot of people counting on you. You know, even like you know you've got people, coaches, caddies, like people that you are paying depending on how you perform. And there's a lot of pressures that come with that. And yeah, I was pretty low for a little period of time, and I, you know, the best thing I probably did was actually, you know, let my closest people to me, my parents, know, because if I didn't, I would just have kept going, you know, down and down. And yeah, it could have got a lot worse. So I'm glad I did speak to them about it, just for them to be like, right, okay, if golf's not making you happy, like, you need to stop. Because I think I also probably felt like I'm the youngest in my family. I've got 2 older sisters, and I always felt like that was, you know, golf was something my dad obviously loves and always wanted someone, like probably a daughter that played golf professionally. And obviously he got that, but to then probably hear that, you know, I'm not enjoying it. Like, I always felt like maybe I was letting him down of, you know, if I stopped playing. Whereas he was like, if you're not enjoying this, you need to stop. Like, it doesn't matter to me. Like, I just want you to be happy. And I think probably when I had that conversation, it was a little bit of a relief of, okay, I don't feel like I have to keep playing because it's making, you know, other people happy.
And it's so obvious when you say it out loud that he's going to say that. But
yeah, of course.
I've been in those places, and it's like, no, everyone's relying on me. This is so much pressure.
Yeah.
Like, they're going to hate me when I say this thing.
Yeah. And I also probably felt like, you know, God, if I don't play golf anymore, what am I going to do? And all these, like, things go, like, you know, I'm not going to be, you know, I'm always going to be okay in whatever I do. Like, I'm always going to be able to find something else. But I think when you're, like, really at the lowest point of, you know, thinking, what am I going to do? And, you know, I couldn't see a way out of when I was struggling on the golf course. It was such a dark, clouded time that, you know, there was a lot of people, and I had to speak to, like, my last event of the year when I played in Germany, and I withdrew. I came straight in and, you know, I withdrew after my first round, sorry. I came in and spoke to the physio, because obviously if you withdraw, you actually get fined if you've not got a valid reason. Yeah, because obviously I'm taking a space away from the first reserve that could have got in. So I went in to see the physio, and she basically has to write you a medical letter to give a valid reason of why you stopped. And I said to her, I was like, I've got to be honest, I'm not injured. I was like, and then I've just burst into, like, tears, and, you know, she could see that I was, you know, mentally not in a great place. And, you know, there is obviously a medical for that, to be able to withdraw. But yeah, I then had the support of people like, you know, them around me of, you know, trying to get a little bit of help with that.
Good. Does the tour support you after you leave?
As in when you retire, or?
Well, like with where you are now, you've obviously left with a bit of kind of emotional stuff going on. Do they help you afterwards?
I mean, I've got a close relationship with a lot of the people that work on the tour. And I know that, you know, I've had some messages from people that work for the tour, and I know that if I ever needed anything, and, you know, I'm sure they'll always... The thing is, I'm not... Even though I've retired, I'm still going to see them, because I'm going to see them next month in Riyadh when I work at the event. And... yeah, I'll always go in and see the physios, and there's people that, you know, they've probably watched me grow up from a 20-year-old. They've watched me for the last 11 years. So you're kind of growing up with these people. They're kind of like a family. So, yeah, they will always check in. And, you know, the tour is one big family, especially the Ladies European Tour. The people you play with, the caddies, like I said, the physios, the tour staff. Like, it's such a tight-knit family, which has been really nice, actually. That's probably something that I'll really miss.
Good. Right, last question. If you could go back to the first day you picked up a golf club, and you could either pick it up and do everything you've done, or not and go and do something different, what would you do?
So it's either that I pick up a golf club or I do something different. Oh, absolutely, I pick up the golf club. I mean, like, even now I've stopped playing, the opportunities and the people I've met, like, in all different industries, not just in golf. Like, golf and sport in general gives you so many opportunities to meet so many different types of people, like, you know, meeting you in business and meeting, like, different sports people. Like, I've been so lucky. And, you know, even I've met my boyfriend through the sport and just different things like that. Like, I would, never switch that up.
Good. Right. Well, thank you very much, Amy. It's been brilliant. I've really, really enjoyed this.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, everyone at home, for listening. We've had somebody great on today. If you could please like, share, subscribe, and we can get somebody just as great next time. Thank you.